What's going on YouTube? So I'm standing next to one of the, if not the most highly anticipated new SUV of 2020. This all-new Chevy Tahoe. It has long been the king of large SUVs, and this redesign is promising to bring refinement, luxury, design, and capability to a whole new level. But we won't waste a bunch of time just talking about it. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So with the new Tahoe, Chevy is introducing a lot of new trim levels. So there are actually going to be 6 different trim levels of this new Tahoe once everything does come out. Now for today, we're only going to be talking about the 3 trim levels that we have information for right now. The others will join later, and that's going to be the LT, Premier, and High Country. Now amongst those 3 trim levels, you will have a different grille for each of them. Now starting out with the LT, you will have the chrome bar that goes across the middle here. The Premier is going to add these little chrome accents like you see here. And then if you go for the High Country, it's going to replace all of this with just a bunch of chrome bars. Now off to the side here, you will notice we have fully LED headlights. These are actually standard across every model of the new Tahoe. And we have the cool daytime running light and turn signal combination that was popularized with the new Silverado. Now one thing you will notice, however, though, as I drop down, we actually are missing fog lights, and those are not available on any version of this new Tahoe. So among the trims we're talking about today, each one of them is going to have a different wheel size. So on your base LT model, that's going to have an 18-inch alloy. When you upgrade to this Premier, you get this 20-inch alloy. And then when you go for the High Country, that's going to get you 22-inch alloys. But just like last year, you are going to have a ton of different wheel options that you can choose to add on to each of those trim levels if you prefer something maybe a little bit more stylish than this one here. Now, moving on up to the mirrors. One of the things I'm noticing about them is they're a lot larger than last year. That definitely helps with the rear visibility. And as far as the mirrors themselves, you will have standard heating. Here on the Premier, this is the only one with the chrome mirror cap. Even the High Country does have body color. And then as far as the features themselves, what you'll be adding when you get to the Premier trim level is auto dimming, power folding, and blind spot monitoring.
Now you may be noticing from the styling that this new Tahoe looks bigger, and that's because it actually is. This new version is 211 inches long, which is up 6.7 inches in length over the previous generation. So that's a lot of growth, and that is going to be in the inside cabin that you're going to really notice and appreciate that space. Now, as far as other things to mention, this new Tahoe can also get an adaptive air suspension on the Z71 and High Country trims. So that's definitely a luxury touch that is now coming down to the Tahoe model. Now, walking around to the rear design, what has Chevy done different? So this is a completely ground up look. It looks completely different from the previous generation model, and a lot of that has to do with the styling elements. So the big thing you're going to notice is this chrome trim that goes all the way throughout the entire rear. That's going to be on all of the trim levels. Accenting it, we do have LED accented tail lights. However, this is going to be incandescent on the turn signal, brake light, and reverse light, and I really would have liked to have seen that as full LED for this new Tahoe. Dropping down though, we do have a chrome trim, and then off to the sides, you're going to notice it has quad exhaust outlets. That's a really neat touch, and that's going to be on the Premier and High Country trim levels. And as far as your towing, it's going to be rated at 8,400 pounds for the 5.3 liter 4x2, and that is your maximum tow rating. Now Chevy's going to throw in a pretty decent amount of standard safety gear, since on all of the trim levels you're going to have standard forward emergency braking as well as auto high beam headlamps. Now if you go for the Premier trim, that's also going to throw in lane keeping assist, and then optional on the Premier and High Country is going to be all of your more advanced safety systems like adaptive cruise control. Well, the exterior of this new Tahoe is a little bit more evolutionary than revolutionary, but I hear there are a lot of changes on the inside, especially in terms of space. So now let's go ahead and check that out before we take it out on a spin.
So the new Tahoe debuts a new key fob for the Chevy brand. As you can see, it's got a brand new shape, kind of like the new Cadillac key fob. Got some chrome on the side, a little bit of a texture on the front, and you will also find remote start. That's going to be standard on the LT trim level and higher, in addition to the standard keyless entry system. Now, to get inside the vehicle itself, there's still not a sensor behind the handle, so you will have to press the button to unlock. But taking a look inside of this cabin, wow, it is very, very different from the outgoing model. Definitely like no resemblance whatsoever to what it used to look like, and really has moved upscale in a big kind of way. Now, once all the trim levels come out, there are going to be 6 total trim levels. So obviously that does mean there'll be quite a bit of difference between the different cabin designs. Now, for the 3 trims we're talking about today, you'll have standard real leather. If you go for the LT, it's your choice of jet black or gray. When you go for this Premier, that's where you get the perforated leather, and that gives you the choice between jet black or an exclusive and really nice looking maple sugar color. Finally, at the top of the lineup with the High Country, that also has perforated real leather in jet black or an exclusive mocha color. Now, turning over here to your door trim, it is very nicely finished. You'll have leather that covers pretty much the entire thing. Perforated down here, you have some stitching. It's leather up here as well as along the top. You'll also notice a faux wood accent. You will find 2-person memory seating on all of the models. And then the front 2 windows are one-touch auto up and down. The back ones are just auto down. Checking out these seats, we have the 10-way power adjusting seats with 4-way lumbar support. You will have 12 ways of adjustment if you go for the High Country. And then, like I was mentioning, this is real leather. Definitely feels very nice. I like the design as well, since we have a white color contrast piping design as well as the stitching along the side. And on this particular model, we just have the standard fixed running boards, but they're definitely nice and big and make getting in pretty easy. Now, obviously, like I already mentioned, the design itself is nothing like the outgoing generation, but the bigger change has got to be the upgraded materials. So here on this Premier model, I'm very impressed to find we actually have a full leather dashboard. That's something that was not available on the outgoing generation at all. Moving to the middle here, we have some more of this faux wood, but very, very realistic looking. We also have some perforated leather with a color contrast stitching detail, and that runs all through these middle areas. As we drop down, we have a little bit of silver plastic trim. We have another big patch of leather for you to rest your knee against, and everything in here does fit together extremely well. Now, to start up the new Tahoe, you do have push button start located back there behind the steering wheel. One of the things you will notice right at startup is we actually have a brand new tone for the General Motors brand that we first heard in the Cadillac models. Now, as far as the gauges themselves, they look pretty similar to the outgoing Tahoe and as well as the Silverado. Since we have mostly analog gauge cluster, but we have the premium 7-inch display right there in the middle on the Premier trim level and higher. Now, this does contain all the typical information down here in the lower section, and then in the top part you have digital representations of other gauges. Now, one of the really nice features that this specific Tahoe Premier has, since we have the premium package, is a gigantic 15-inch head-up display. This is a class exclusive feature, and as you can tell, it is absolutely massive, has a lot of really nice information in it, and is one of the best that I've ever seen. Now, coming back to the steering wheel itself, of course we have electric power assisted steering, and you will find a standard leather wrapped steering wheel. On the Premier and the High Country, you also have power adjustment as well as heating. Now, off to the side here, we have a ton of buttons. This is basically where we've relocated some of the stuff from the center to off to this side. I'll point out the important ones. This is where you turn on and off your auto start stop system. This is your electronic parking brake. These are your adjustments for the head-up display. Down below, this knob here will adjust your drive modes as well as your four-wheel drive settings. We have our headlight controls, and then right here is going to be for your trailer brake controller. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk about one of the parts you've probably been waiting for, and that's going to be interior storage. Now buckle up, it's going to take a little while to go through all of this storage. Alright, we'll start under the center console. When you open this up, you'll see you have a nice little storage tray right here. This is removable, so you can toss that off to the side. And looking in here, this is absolutely gigantic. Definitely just as big as it is in like a Silverado. And you do have a rubber lining down there at the bottom. Inside you have 2 USB ports as well. And then we can stick our giant stack of coupons in here. Obviously there's no match for that. We could fit at least 1,000 in there if we wanted to. Up top here we've got a little pad that you can stick your phone. You have 2 cup holders. And then we have another giant bin up here in the front. This does work as a wireless phone charging pad on the LT trim level and higher. You also have some more connections right there. We've got a little bit of storage down here on the side. Of course, we have a bunch of storage over here on the door trims as well. And you remember the old Tahoe, you had some hidden storage back behind the display. You don't have that anymore, but we do have this little thing right there, but it's actually a little bit bigger than you think. As you can see, it goes back quite a ways, and it is nicely felt lined, so you can hide some different belongings in there, like valuables. Now, one of the reasons Chevy can fit so much storage inside of this Tahoe is because we have an electronic shifter mounted up here and out of the way. That's right, the old column shifter, that is gone now, and we now have a push-button style electronic shifter, which some of you guys will be happy to see and some of you guys will be disappointed to see. But as far as electronic shifters go, operation is very simple. For drive, you're just going to pull in on that toggle like so. You can shift manually with these little toggles if you want to. And then for reverse, you're going to do the same action. Now once you go into reverse, you will find a standard backup camera on all of the trims, besides for the High Country, which has the standard 360-degree camera system. As you can see, we've got that 360 camera as part of the premium package. And it is a very, very nice system. It's made up of 9 different cameras all around the vehicle. And then for park, you just press down on the P. When you do, an electronic parking brake will automatically deploy. Alright, so let's drop down here to our climate controls. What you'll be looking at here is the 3-zone automatic climate control setup. This is standard across every single trim level of the Tahoe, and operation is very simple. You just have these 2 big knobs to adjust the temperature, your fans in the middle, and your zones all around it. And then you will also notice we have heated and ventilated seats on board with this premier trim level. If you go for the LT, it will just be heated, and in typical General Motors fashion, they do separate the back and the butt for the heating, which is a pretty cool touch. Alright, so let's move on up here to our audio systems. Now, the LT trim level will come standard with a Bose sound system with 9 speakers, but the Premier trim level will be the start of the 10-speaker Bose Centerpoint sound system, which is a little bit more premium. Let's go ahead and take a sample of that. The overall sound quality of this system is quite good and seems befitting of the price tag. Okay, so now that brings us up here to one of our biggest updates for this new Tahoe, and that is the standard 10.2-inch high-definition display running the latest Chevy Infotainment 3 system. Now this screen is the biggest standard screen in the class, but as far as the software itself, it is pretty much the same as in other General Motors vehicles. So you have a home display. Here on this model, we also have the integrated navigation system, Now the other standout feature for the new Tahoe is that we have both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and they are now both wireless. So that makes this one of the very first mainstream vehicles to offer the wireless versions. Now moving on up, we have a standard frameless auto-dimming mirror, but if you flip that switch, you'll notice the special feature, and that is the rear camera mirror system. This is standard on the High Country and optional with the premium package here on the Premier model. Then up at the very top here, you'll find a few more buttons. We have our HomeLink universal remotes right there. I'm also noticing a new button that I've never seen before on Tahoe. This is actually to power fold the third row from the front, so that's an interesting feature. I guess you can do that just so you can see out of the rear window a little bit better. Additionally, up here we have our power panoramic moonroof controls. As you can see, this is a very large moonroof. It does go all the way back to the second row headrest. And this is going to be optional for $1,500 across all of the trim levels.
Now for this new Tahoe, Chevy put an emphasis on making it more comfortable and more spacious. I think that was really their biggest focus, and that's a really good thing for a vehicle like this. Now, as far as your legroom is going to be concerned in this new Tahoe, you're going to have 42 inches of rear legroom, 39 inches of rear headroom, and for reference, that's over 3 inches larger than the previous generation Tahoe, and I can definitely feel that when I sit back here behind rear seating position. I probably have, I would say, 8 to 10 inches of rear legroom. My feet can easily slide up underneath the seat, and overall, I'm just really, really comfortable, especially here in the second row. Now, going to the features they've thrown in, we have cup holders up top. Down below that, we do have our standard 3-zone climate. That's on all of them, so you can adjust your temperature and fan speeds. Off to the side, we do also have 3-stage heated rear seats. That's going to be on the Premier and High Country trim levels. Down below, we have USB Type-Cs, 2 of them. And then we can also lift this up to reveal a regular 115-volt household-style outlet. Now, as far as other features you can also get dual 12.6-inch rear seat entertainment screens if that's something that you're interested in. And then as far as these captain's chairs, these are going to be standard on the Premier and High Country, optional on the LT, and new for 2021, they can actually slide for the first time, and it does have a range of motion of 5.5 inches. Now, arguably the better space improvements are going to be for the third row, so let's go ahead and get back there. Now, Chevy has made this really, really easy for this all-new model. So all you have to do is locate this little lever. When you push it once, it actually folds the seat, kind of like scoots it down to the ground, and then you can pull that same lever again, and it will fold it up and out of the way. So this is honestly one of the easiest methods I've ever seen used. And then hopping back to the third row. Wow, my, oh my, oh my, this does not feel like a Tahoe ever has in the past. So as far as your legroom, it's going to come in at 35 inches of rear legroom, 38 inches of rear headroom, which is over a 40% improvement over the previous generation model. And I have to say, this is really a fantastic third row. This seat is slid all the way back, and as you can see, I still have probably an inch, if not more space. My feet can slide up underneath the seat. And really, the biggest thing is that now that we have moved to that independent rear axle, the load floor is so much lower than it was before, so I have really pretty good thigh support. So this is a really big improvement. Off to the side, we do also have cup holders, as well as a charging USB port and vents up top. Now, walking up to the tailgate of this new Tahoe, you do still have the rear opening glass, which is definitely a feature that I know a lot of you guys are interested in, and most SUVs do not have that at this point. So that's nice to see that Chevy has carried that over. Now, as far as the tailgate itself, it is going to be standard hands-free power. So all you have to do is wave your foot under the bumper to open up. And here in the cargo area, as you might expect, this is going to be an area where there's another really large improvement for this all-new model. Now, as far as the space is concerned, it's going to be rated at 26 cubic feet behind the third row seats. That's up over 66% over the previous generation Tahoe. And then as far as if you fold them, it's going to expand to 73 cubic feet behind the second row, and all of them folded is going to give you 123 cubic feet. Once again, a vast improvement over the previous generation model. It's even bigger than the regular Expedition as well. So this is really very impressive. That power folding third row is going to be standard on the Premier and High Country trims, and everything can be folded very easily, even the second row from back here. The passenger seat is going to have the same adjustments as the driver. And then in front of the passenger, we do have a good-sized glove box. It is nicely dampened, however, it's not felt lined. And as you can see, it has lots of room. Definitely a lot of coupons can fit in here. So if you're hauling around all of your family, you can each have a coupon. And then up top, we do have a sun visor with LED lighting, as well as a very large mirror. And it does also detach as well as extend.
So we're first taking off in this 2021 Tahoe. It is all new, of course, the main body of it, but the powertrain is actually carried over. So this is the standard engine. It's still the 5.3 liter V8. You're looking at 355 horsepower, 383 pound-feet of torque. Same as last year. There have been some adjustments to like the active fuel management, but the power numbers are the same as last year.
Yeah, and this is going to be the engine that's standard on all but the very top-end High Country model. And I do want to also just mention that this 5.3 liter, you know, we've been in this Tahoe quite a few times, and I think it does honestly have a kind of different sound for this all-new Tahoe model. I guess maybe the quad exhaust make it louder, but it does have a very deep and throaty sound, which I think a lot of buyers are going to appreciate.
Definitely sounds good.
Yeah.
As far as power itself, it's pretty good. This doesn't feel super fast, so if you want something that feels really fast, then you know, definitely look into upgrading to your 6.2 liter. And it does feel a little bit slower than the Expedition overall as far as this base engine. Now, if you choose to get the 6.2 liter V8, that's where you have 420 horsepower, and those are numbers that are going to be above the Expedition. So going over that bridge there, that kind of brings us to probably the biggest change of this all-new Tahoe, and that is just like all-around suspension reworking here.
Oh yeah.
So as Mason mentioned when he was going over the rear areas, we've moved to an independent rear suspension. So that's going to pay benefits in the way that it rides, in addition to big benefits in the way it's packaged.
Yeah.
Here on the Premier, we also have magnetic ride control. So that is an excellent system we've seen in other General Motors products, and it really changes the way that things ride. Compared to the outgoing generation, this feels a lot less springy and bouncy. So when you go over like the bridge there, you know, you're having the adjustment that's happening, you know, right in milliseconds, and it really keeps things under control. You don't have this bouncing sensation, you don't sway around. It really makes something that's huge, this is a huge vehicle, but makes it feel like a lot more maneuverable and less just gigantic.
Yeah, the magnetic ride control really works wonders for a vehicle of this size, and you know, that's not the only change, because you can also, with this new Tahoe, get an air suspension. That's going to be available on the Z71 and High Country models.
I haven't talked about the transmission yet. This year you've got a 10-speed automatic transmission. That's going to be standard across the whole entire lineup. I know like with the Silverado they switch between various different transmissions, but with the Tahoe it's going to have the 10-speed and across all the trim levels. Shifting, definitely nice. This is a good and responsive transmission. Ironically, co-developed with Ford and also used in its big competition, the Expedition.
Yeah, they have the exact same transmission.
A little bit different tuning, but yeah, it's mechanically the same transmission, and in both cases, it's a good transmission.
Now, as far as your drivetrains, it's going to be standard 4x2 and optional 4-wheel drive on all the trim levels, so even the high country can be available on 2-wheel drive. Then as far as your fuel economy is concerned, so for this 5.3 liter V8, both the 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive are going to be rated at 16 city, 20 highway, 18 combined. And also, now that we are up to around 55 miles per hour, I will go ahead and get our sound level reading so we can get an accurate measure of that. Wow. 51.9 decibels. That's normally on this road in a normal vehicle we're getting 56 to 57 decibels, and the decibel range doesn't range that much. That's quite frankly one of the lowest readings that we've ever gotten. So very, very impressive, and I totally believe it. That new suspension really smooths out the ride, and also I think they've really upgraded the sound deadening to increase this vehicle's overall luxury experience.
Now let's wrap things up with a few more items. First of all, we have our airball and our slam dunk. Now for us, the slam dunk is pretty obvious. It's that switch to the independent rear suspension because it benefits things in so many ways.
Yep. Now as far as the airball, what we're going to call this is just the pricing. Now, I know we haven't talked about the pricing yet. I will talk about that in just a second. But this one, as equipped, is around $72,000, and the fully loaded ones for this new generation of Tahoe can go well into the $80,000 price point, about $81,000, $82,000 fully loaded. That said, it really isn't out of line with the Expedition, so it kind of is a little bit of pros and cons. These vehicles are just getting more and more expensive as time goes on. Now, since I was talking about the pricing, let's go ahead and discuss for the rest of them. The LT is going to start at $55,095. Premier is $63,895. The High Country is $70,895. And keep in mind that 4-wheel drive is an additional $3,000. And as this one's equipment, we do have quite a few options. So we have the premium package for $4,485. And then just the optional white paint, so $995, and then the destination charge of $1295 brings this one, as tested, to $72,375, which is, you know, like I mentioned earlier, it's a pretty good price point for what you're getting in here. It's not out of line with the rivals, but it is pretty high.
But all in all, I think Chevy did exactly what they needed to do with this new Tahoe. Of course, this is a very popular product that has really dominated this segment for a long, long time. So we didn't need, like, you know, crazy changes that are going to alienate customers, but they changed all the things that really matter. Yep. And all the things that we complain about with the previous generation, particularly with the space and the ride and the interior here, are just huge improvements over the outgoing generation. So like I said, I think Chevy did exactly what they needed to do with this new Tahoe.
Well guys, we hope you enjoyed watching one of the first in-depth looks of the 2021 Chevy Tahoe Premier. If you enjoyed this video, there's about 500 or 600 more on the channel, so be sure to check those out, from face-off comparisons to Tesla content to other Chevy Tahoe, Cadillac Escalade content. Anything you want is going to be on the channel, so be sure to subscribe, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.